Hello again, everyone. This is Bielen. This is Cazual Conversations, a place where we discuss many topics with people that are important to our world. Today, we have a very special guest, and his name is Ed Berenhaus. Hi, Ed. How are you?
Good to be with you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Hey, I know currently you are involved in real estate, correct? Let's just bring that up.
Yeah, sure. I'm a licensed real estate salesperson and certified negotiation expert at Brown Harris Stevens Real Estate here in Manhattan, and always happy to help people find a new home or sell their current home.
Yeah, well, New York's the #1 market in the world, correct? Broadcast
sure
and pretty much everywhere you look. But we'll get back to that at the end of this segment. Right now, let's go back in time. Way back in time to another millennium, pretty much, where you got started in broadcast television. Tell us where.
I had the great experience of working at 30 Rockefeller Plaza, historic 30 Rock, as an NBC page and tour guide.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, that's the 1976 Democratic Convention right outside Madison Square Garden. I had a little bit more hair then.
Yeah, you're still looking good, though.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
We're both kind of rocking still, right?
Hey, we're still here, aren't we?
So, what exciting things have you done at 30 Rock?
Well, as an NBC page, I got to work on various game shows like To Tell the Truth. And of course, the very, very first 2 seasons of Saturday Night Live, which was just a tremendous experience in the 8H studio, the very famous studio where they built for Arturo Toscanini and the NBC Symphony Orchestra. And the place just had a magic to it. I got to work with people like John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, and of course, the wonderful Gilda Radner, who was, there's Gilda, who was just an absolute doll, one of the most humble people I've ever met, and truly a pioneering funny lady of late night television.
That whole program still exists to this day. Hey, well, were you back there at the cheeseburger, that whole
sure. Yeah, and they were actually cooking cheeseburgers.
Really?
Studio. Yeah, well, they had to use a live stove to get the steam and all of that. But that's based on a bit that John had a favorite burger place in Chicago, and apparently that was the kind of place it was. And so they wrote a bit around it. John and Dan Aykroyd were a team. They came in together and they did quite a number of bits together. And of course, they formed the Blues Brothers later and so forth.
Yes. So did you know them? Did you get to hang out with these
things? Yeah. The great thing about working on the first 2 seasons is most of the members, the cast members, were the same age as the pages. And in fact, Dan and I are the same age. And they were very friendly. We got to go to the after parties after the show all week together. Tuesday night, we'd start rehearsals way into the night. And ultimately, after Saturday night at 1 a.m., we'd head over to some secret location and a party that would go on till 2 or 3 in the morning. Everyone was still amped up. So it's a really great experience, and everybody was really nice.
So I hear, like, late in your other years, you met like a famous person there at NBC?
Well, I met quite a few famous people. But one that comes to mind that I like to talk about is Sir Sean Connery. Yeah, well, he was going to be on Live at 5, which was the 5 o'clock hour of News 4 New York, it was called back then, to talk about one of his latest movies. But for me, it was always James Bond. And as a page, I had to welcome him to the studio and see if he needed anything. Well, about 5 minutes to 5, he needed to use the restroom. And I had my little key to get in the door, but for some reason, the key wouldn't work. I could not open the door. And then suddenly, my hero, Sean Connery, the coolest guy in the world, had this very troubled look on his face. I said, "Where have I seen that face before?" And then I go, "Aha, there it is." That troubled look when he was strapped to the table in Goldfinger. And sure, he had that look. The good news is that somebody actually came out of the restroom and he was able to get in there and everything went smoothly. The interview went smoothly. So all is good. But it was quite a moment to see Sir Sean a little bit panicked.
Wow. You told me earlier you had a lifelong friend who started a program called Wonderama, which at the time was like a 4-hour babysitting service provided for parents because a kid show that went on for 4 hours.
Well, in New York, Wonderama was a Sunday must-see TV. It was 4 hours, and Sonny talks about how he pretty much improvised a lot of the show. But really what he did was he worked with the kids in a way that made them feel respected, and he didn't talk down to them, he talked to them. Eventually the show, which by the way, there was another show on Saturday mornings called Just for Fun, which was also live. It was mostly games and competition.
Mm-hmm.
But Sonny became vice president of children's programming, and I was lucky enough to be his page when I was an intern for him.
Yeah.
And somehow it started a relationship that lasted 50 years. That's us in 2016. In fact, very recently, I hosted a 95th birthday for him on Zoom with a co-host. It was really a great experience. He loved it. Unfortunately, we lost Sonny
January, right?
January, yeah. 95, really sharp as a tack,
Wow.
but beloved, especially here in New York.
Now tell me later on, Joan Rivers. You worked with
Joan Rivers. Well, I got to work on promos for a lot of people, but my absolute favorite was Joan Rivers. She was one of the nicest people I've ever met. And, you know, she was such a pioneer in television back in the 60s. She was a female comic on the Ed Sullivan Show when they didn't have many female comics. An inspiration to many, very generous, and quietly she would do things for people. We found out after she passed, she took care of people who needed hospital care and what have you. Yeah. Truly a generous and beautiful lady. The thing about Joan is whatever I wrote for her, she would immediately make it funnier. It was just a wonderful experience for me. Every day was literally a joy to go to work.
Yeah, I heard her daughter found thousands and thousands of cards with jokes, that she kept. Every single thing she ever performed, she had a library of that.
Yeah, she had a full index card file for every joke. And Melissa, often, if you go to the Joan Rivers Facebook page, she posts a lot of them, just as they were typed back in the day. They're yellow now and so forth. But she had that kind of a reference library, and it was all in her head. She could improvise her way out of any moment. And just so funny, wonderful.
Tell me, later on, you got involved as the internet was starting. I worked in cable days, in the local beginning of cable before cable was cool, like that once stated. But you were involved with AOL. Tell me about that.
Well, AOL was at that time still a pay service. When I worked there were 26 million subscribers, paid subscribers. And we created a bunch of things for AOL that didn't exist before. Notably, we started the use of rich media on the home screen, which is movable media, which today, of course, we take for granted.
Right.
And then we also created a directory for all of AOL services. There were so many different services, and you had to hunt and peck around to find them. We created the first directory. It was known as Discover AOL, and I believe it still exists today. And of course, AOL doesn't have the same cachet, but at that time, it was the leader. It was like the YouTube of the internet.
Yeah, and so you spent some time with Kate AOL?
Kate Hudson, yes. So one of the things I was asked to do was create celebrity promotions, and Kate was working on how to lose a guy in 10 days at this time. And we did a promo together that actually went live. We recorded it and went live 3 hours later. So we had to edit it, produce it, put all the final effects in, and rush it to the place where it would be played back on the home screen.
So Ed, tell me, anyone getting into show business these days, what should they do?
Well, there are a number of ways to get in, but the overarching thought I have is that you should learn everything you can about every aspect of the medium. Now, when I started, there were just 3 networks. There was no cable. But you start by learning about television. You learn about radio, because it's still an influential medium. And of course, streaming media, which is quite a universe these days. There's so much to follow there. If I were a young college student, I would say, subscribe to as many publications as you can. There's the Center for Communication, which has lots of workshops for people, free workshops for students. And I actually think getting your start at NBC is still a great value. Working in that historic building is like a graduate school.
Well, there's also the Television Museum where all the programmers can be found.
The Perry Center,
there's you can join the Academy, the Emmy Academy in New York.
The TV Academy.
I belong to that one, so you can get a lot of experience and exposure to different, as things open back up.
And then one thing I would say is, if you see somebody who you want to consider for a mentor, they may not want to mentor you, but they're probably willing to give you a little bit of time. Ask them just for an informational interview, especially for those starting out. Everybody likes to give back, pay it forward in this industry.
Yeah, just ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Put yourself out there and ask, because the worst they can do is say no, get out of my face, or whatever, But I'm sure that if they're real nice, honorable people, they'll love to be heard about. Like, I reach out to you, and you told me in prior conversation we had that you didn't get too much of a chance to tell your life story, all these great experiences you have in television and web, but we're here talking about it. And I would never think, maybe I'll just reach out to him, or he'll say he was a big TV guy, executive, whatever. He'll never talk to me, but you did.
It's there's a lot to be proud of. There's a lot to remember. And I appreciate the opportunity to tell a little bit of my story to your audiences.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have you back on to talk more, because I think you got some really cool stuff. So thank you again for being here. But right now, let's get back to the real estate, what you do right now. So tell us a little bit about that, who you work for, and what you do there again.
Well, Brown Harris Stevens is one of the oldest and most reputable real estate companies in New York. They've actually been around since 1873. So that's quite a stretch of time, close to 150 years. It's the largest independent real estate company in New York City. And we have a reputation for quality, honesty, and some of the greatest marketing I've seen. As a marketing guy, I can tell you I'm very impressed with everything they do. It's really first rate, first class. We make sure that everything we put out there to market and sell a home is really top shelf. Gives the people a sense of quality. Even for small, low priced apartments, we treat them. We give them the white glove service. And I'm always happy to give advice. Advice is free. If you want an estimate on your home, what it might be worth, all of that kind of thing, I'm happy to do for people.
Yeah, so give us the contact information. I know it's on the screen, but I like it when you say it.
Well, it's Berenhaus at bhsusa.com, and my phone number is there, and operators are standing by. That would be me. and we're open 24/7. So call me anytime you'd like, or send me an email, and we'll set up something.
Hey, I know that's
happy to give advice. Advice is absolutely my pleasure.
And I know that's a real number, because I called you on that number and you did pick up. There was no operator, nobody else that went to or hold on for it was like he picked up and he talked to me, and we had a good conversation. And that is because you see sometimes politicians say, "Hey, call me at that number. I'll pick it up anytime," but rarely do they actually pick up. So I think this is great that it's your number and you pick up. So final advice for people who want to go back or return or move into New York area, or what would you tell them?
Well, right now is a terrific time for buyers, because as a result of the pandemic, a lot of pricing has come down quite a bit. And that isn't going to stay that way. In fact, prices are starting to creep up again. As we record this, the market is improving significantly. We just had a really good quarter. And there's lots of optimism about what's coming forward with the vaccine rolling out and what have you. People are starting to come back to New York. Restaurants are opening up again. And there's really no place like New York. It's just the most fun place to be. Certainly, I love being on the beach or in some beautiful mountain area. But at the core, my heart is here. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, and I still can't get enough of it. And I love telling people about New York, especially places that they can find out about, neighborhoods and what have you. It's always a lot of fun.
Well, I know if people go, I think it's on your Facebook and some other Instagram you have, you show really historic pictures of New York and little insights, which I love to see those every single time.
I get a tremendous reaction. Literally thousands of likes when I post these historic photos of New York. And I usually try to put some information there that will take them right back there. They're eye-catching, because you realize that was New York, and some of it is still identifiable. Like, for example, the Flatiron Building. It's a very popular post. Where I post anything about that, everyone just seems to just gravitate towards.
Well, I saw one you did recently, and somebody else posted their own picture they had of that also. There's some people like to compete with you, like, hey, I have a picture like it, or have it from another angle. And it's a nice conversation starter. but I think it educates people about New York, about history, and it starts a conversation going, which, today it's kind of tough with all the social media stuff to have a conversation going on the subject that people have of equal interest.
Well, I don't see it as competition. I say the more the merrier. There's a lot to celebrate about the beauty of New York, the history of New York, and anyone who wants to share anything is okay with me, because it means more people will get to see it, and certainly the historic photos, which you just don't see that often. I do an extensive amount of research. I consider myself a curator of these photos, going way back, to even the 1800s, and some of the films that I find are pretty amazing too. So it's really something I enjoy, and I'm glad other people enjoy it too.
Well, that's what it's all about. Share your knowledge, share your information, and you have something in common. And, even if they don't get back to you, it's information they might have in their head. And when they're meeting a friend or they're down that place, they go, wait, I know about this building. And I tell them, and it makes them, appear better, nicer, whatever, more knowledgeable to someone. And it's all great. And if they happen to mention your name, if they need your service, hey, that's how it works, right?
Sure. Happy to help people and happy to talk about New York anytime.
Yeah, because when I do commercials and someone says, oh, I saw that commercial, or they said that lousy whatever commercial, I go, well, who was it for? If they say it was for this company, I says, well, what else about it? They go, well, this person said this and that, and they thought their stuff was the best. I said, thank you very much. Even though you say you hate it, but you mention the brand, you mention what they did. That's how it works. Get a buzz going about something.
Well, there's an old saying: "There's no such thing as bad publicity or advertising."
That's right.
Whether you like it or hate it, if you remember it, that's what they're interested in.
That's the key. That's the key. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ed, for being a guest on our program, Cazual Conversations. And so, how'd you like the experience?
I think it was great. Happy to do it again with you, and we'll deep dive into some of the great stories of television.
Yeah, and New York, right?
Anytime.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I hope to see you next time. And as always, Ed, keep having those casual conversations with anybody else you want also. All right, I give you freedom to do that, okay?
Hey, keep it casual, Kaz. That's right. My motto.